It is still morning, and good morning. I just put up the one video on love, truth, justice, and the American way, which of course we've lost our way. We've been destroyed. And the most important thing I think I should point out is that the early Christians did not call themselves Christians. They called themselves followers of the way. They also was described also as the faith of our fathers. Now, when I say that, I'm actually quoting the Messiah. Those were his words on two different occasions. So it's in the Bible twice, so it's a double witness. So they didn't consider themselves Christians. The word Christian was used by the Roman pagans to label them, to deride them. Because the idea was anyway, I get so many harassing phone calls, I just screen them all these days. And if you're not in my directory as a saved number, then I'm not accepting your call. You can text me, or you can leave a message, fine. And I'm about to change the number anyway, back to a number back home with a proper area code for me. I'm a little bit frustrated. I've been trying to take care of bills and just don't have enough to make ends meet. Sure would be nice to have the money in the bank. Of course, I would just be passing it on to somebody else right now. But the country is gone and it's going down, and Netanyahu has decided that America is going to go to war in Iran, which is about the stupidest thing we could ever do. But yet, apparently we're not done with our stupidity. We haven't excelled at it enough yet so that we might get a break. But the only break we're going to get is if we wake up and repent and we start acting proper. But the country is corrupt. People are willing to go to court and lie, and the judge is willing to hear lies, which is just really incredible because, the judges really need their comeuppance because they shouldn't be on the bench if they're going to accept perjury, if they're going to accept lies, and if they're not going to abide by common sense. So I think that justice isn't possible anymore. If you're a white man in America, there's almost no way to get that. Pretty much no way to get it. So you have to be careful because the fact is that you're white, so you're guilty. And that's all there is to it. And whoever it is right. So if it's a woman, she's always right. She'll never be held accountable or responsible. She'll never be an adult, to be honest with you. She'll be held to a different standard, if at all. And she can actually get away with murder, quite literally. When I was a young man, it came to my attention. Men, on average, for murder, were getting a 20-year sentence. That's what the average was. At the same time, a woman, on average, was getting a 7-year sentence, so it's 1/3 of the amount. Today, we no longer have the rule of law. The man of lawlessness is in the Bible. I identified him a long time ago as Barack Hussein Obama. He has destroyed the lawful order, even the lawful international order. But then again, it turns out that we haven't been good neighbors for a long time. We haven't held to any of the treaties that we've made with other nations. We have reneged on everything, and anyone that we've ever been friends with, we have stabbed in the back. And at this point, the rest of the world is fed up with us, and they're going to gang up on us. And I didn't realize that Zbigniew Brzezinski actually predicted years ago who the three nations were going to be, and he also warned us, we must never allow these three nations to unite, because they'll go against us. And that's exactly what's going on today. He wrote that book in the 70s. I tried to get it. It was out of print. I couldn't get a copy of it. It was pretty pricey, so I didn't get to read that book. But basically, he said Russia, China, and Iran must never be allowed to become partners, to become allies. And of course, we got the dumbest administration in the world, or the guys that control all of these puppets that are our politicians have dictated that these are the circumstances that they want. And I believe they want to destroy what's left of America. And they're well on the way, and Americans think, oh no, we're too big. Nobody would ever screw with us. Nobody would ever attack us. Well, I got news for you. Your own government's attacking you. Loving California, where they called down fire from on high and burned out all those people along where that future railroad, high-speed railroad to nowhere. Except it's going to enrich a bunch of politicians, especially in California, like Pelosi. And then you have Lahaina. I mean, seriously. I guess they didn't hit it hard enough, so when the satellite come back around, they shot again at it. Yeah, fired down from on high. And we were prevented from helping people there. Same thing in the Carolinas and Tennessee. They used weather warfare and put a hurricane up there at altitude, which I didn't even know they could do. And they destroyed. And we have no idea how many people they killed. We do know that the government is stopping people from going into the area and helping out. They're threatening to arrest people and charge them with crimes for interfering with the federal government. Now, I don't know about you, but that's the kind of government that we should really do without. We really should wash our hands of this central government at this point. It's out of hand. There's no way to restore it, I don't think. I mean, I'd love to see us take it on and take it down one step at a time, one bite at a time, and eat it up and be done with it. But I don't see that happening. I would love to see us go back to the structure our founders gave us. But that form of government, that style, was meant only for a Bible-believing people. And at this point, there aren't that many Bible believers hardly anymore. It's become a remote, antiquated book, as my Catholic friends tell me. Nobody reads that old book anymore. They turn to their priests. They turn to their other stuff, which really is no less than a man-made tradition, a religion which they hold above the Bible itself and the truth that's in the Bible. Their man-made religion contradicts what's in the Bible. And it's very difficult to figure out what's up and what's not. And yes, I have some difficulty understanding the Bible. And right now in particular, I have trouble with Paul. Paul and I have been arguing for a long time. Now, there are times in which I can see things Paul's way, and it's like he makes sense. Then I get to worry about myself. And Paul doesn't quite use the right words. It's like, what the heck is Jesus doing in there all the time? A form of Zeus. That's the name of Zeus. That's how they snuck that old religion in on us, was giving us that name, Jesus, rather than Yeshua. I mean, that's just the way it is. But here's Paul. And of course, the Bible's been translated a bit. I would have to look and do quite a language study on it. But there are certain problems that we have. And that is that you're told, just say the magic words, claim that you believe, and don't worry about changing anything else. You don't have to repent of your lifestyle or anything else, because the blood of Jesus got you covered. He can forgive anyone, save anyone, and forgive anything, even if you keep doing it over and over and over again. Now, I don't believe that. And I also don't believe that somebody died for my sins. Mine? No. I really do believe that he came here to correct the original sin, in contrast to You know, my little piddling ass stuff, it wasn't worth hanging him up there for that at all. Now, the original sin is a big deal. Of course, you don't know what the original sin is, and I'm not saying I understand it completely, but I don't think that Adam and Eve committed the original sin. I think that's something that our churches fabricated for us. I could be wrong. I don't mind it if I'm wrong. I really think the original sin was a little bit later in the book. I think the original sin occurred in Genesis chapter 6. And I think another sin occurred in Genesis chapter 4. The sin in Genesis chapter 6 was the big deal, though. See, that's where 200 angels got together. Fallen angels. Ejected from the heavens, which of course we read about at the end of the Bible in Revelations, which, how much sense does that make? What's this doing at the end of the book? That Michael prevailed and kicked Satan and his allies out of heaven. Well, they kicked them here to the earth. And 200 of them gathered at Mount Hermon. And they conspired. And part of the conspiracy was they even agreed, once they got off that mountain, they weren't even going to talk about it. Not even among themselves. Leave somebody overhear them and they get discovered. And so what was it that they were guilty of? Well, they were guilty of not just lusting for the daughters of men because they saw they were fair, but taking all of them they wanted for wives. Of course, they didn't have any marriage licenses back then. It was the Sex Act, was the Marriage Act. That's what they did. All of them that they wanted, and impregnated many. And many of these women died in childbirth because the babies were too big for them to bear. And many of these children that these women had superpowers, if you will, supernatural powers. They became men of renown. They became very famous. So I believe the original sin was at Mount Hermon, and that was the grand conspiracy. Now, I'm an old man. Let's face it. I mean, I'm not getting any younger. I'm older. And when I look at these women today, they look fair, but I've had some experience, and I know there's nothing fair about them. They don't play fair. They don't fight fair. They want to dominate. They want to rule. They don't want to just be equal, and they want it all. It's just a preposterous, untenable, unsustainable thing. And so I look at these young women and I say to myself, I can see how those angels were tempted, because these women are fairly tempting. Some are fairly attractive. But that was the original sin. And there were 6 leaders of the fallen angels. This was on Wikipedia until July, and I'll take credit for Wikipedia taking the page down that they had up on the fallen angel Gadriel. Gadreel. I looked it up because I wanted to spell the name properly in my blog, givingpsychologyaway.com, which I haven't been keeping up with lately. I've been too busy with other problems, and I don't think that's going to slow down. So the original sin, I believe, was committed by the 200 fallen angels. Okay? I think that's what Yahshua came to fix. How he's going to do it? He can do it any which way he wants. Because I already know that the most amazing thing about Yahshua is that he actually holds the universe together. His toroidal energy field that he puts off, that emanates from him, holds this whole thing together. Now, what I can't tell if it's just this universe and several other parallel universes. I mean, there probably is more to it than what we realize. But I think we need to give Adam and Eve a break as far as the original sin. I also think that we need to look at Genesis chapter 4. Genesis chapter 4, there was a sin committed. Eve lied. Eve, having been deceived by Gadriel and having been impregnated by Gadriel, lied to her husband Adam, who was the father of her other boy. And she told Adam that, look, with the help of Yahweh, I've gotten a man-child. Really? So Yahweh impregnated you? What do you mean, the help of Yahweh? What we do know is that Eve lied at that point, and she deceived Adam, and she cuckolded Adam to rear another man's son as if it was his own. And the sad thing is that the half-breed, half Adamic DNA and half fallen angelic DNA or half satanic DNA, that being murdered his half-brother Abel, who was 100% Adamic in his genetics, perfect in his genealogies, much like Noah was perfect in his genealogies. Look, there's a lot of players in this at this point. There's a lot of other peoples that are being thrown at us. And there's nothing wrong with them. The problem is that we've taken on intermarrying them, and that's not allowed. We have the recessive genes. We have the weak genes. And we lose out when we crossbreed with them, interbreed with them. That's not a good thing. Yahweh does not want it that way. He loves the world, his creation, the way he made it. So there's nothing wrong with these other species, races, whatever you want to call them. It's just that we're not supposed to intermarry with them. That's all there is to it. But we still have the big problem. And if we go back to Genesis 3, 13, 14, 15, somewhere around there, we will see that Yahweh is talking to Eve and Satan. We don't know that Adam was present at the time, but we do know that Satan was present, and Satan had the presence of mind to keep his mouth shut and not say a word to Yahweh. Eve and Yahweh had the conversation. And we know that in the New Testament, much later in the Bible, it says the man was not deceived, but the woman was. So it says straight out, Eve was deceived. Eve partook of the forbidden fruit, as best we can tell. Now, we don't know if Eve was seduced by Gadriel pretending to be Yahweh. She could have been deceived like that. We just don't know. Or if maybe she was physically raped, forcibly raped. We don't know. We just don't have enough data in the Bible. Or maybe Gadriel tempted her. Says, here, I'll trade you this for that. Give me the you know what, and you can have this little token that I have. So it could have been an act of prostitution. And of course, then it comes down to who initiated that. Was it Eve initiating that? Or was it Gadriel initiating that? We just don't know. We don't have good data. And so to me, a very important thing is that we recognize that this blame game needs to end because it's destructive. It is a divide and conquer technique, just like has been used to take down America. They divided us. The bankers divided us, in case you're wondering. And they control us at this point. They've got us at each other's throats. And look at what's happening international. They've divided us and they got us at each other's throats. So when we recognize that Eve transgressed because she was deceived, how much do we blame Eve? How much are we supposed to put off on Eve? And to me, it's like, does it matter? Does it really matter? What difference does it make now, according to Hillary Clinton? Look, the most important thing is the team, the husband and wife team, the family, that union. And there's not enough support for marriages in this country today. There needs to be more support. You know, a man such as myself that's single needs to recognize it's his married couple. It's against the law for me to interfere in that marriage at all. You can't even flirt. You can't give any kind of compliments. You have to be very careful on that. You certainly can't lust after the man or the woman today. I guess we have equalities in our lusting now. That's pretty twisted, though. In order for us to pull it together, the Adams and the Eves of the world have to put their differences aside and agree to their union and solidifying it and building it. Agreeing to work together and not allowing themselves to be divided. They have to be both committed to maintaining that relationship. And our culture needs to be committed to supporting that marriage. But we don't have much going for us anymore. We don't have good support for marriages. So yes, I think Yeshua came, and he came here to correct the original sin. Now, that's not my original idea, to be honest with you. There's a fellow who writes books out of Texas and has a master's degree, and he's written several good books, and he's older. And he writes about what happened on Mount Hermon, and he writes about the fact that Yeshua came here to correct that evil that happened that screwed things up. I don't think we're going to be in time to save America. Maybe it's already done deal. We've already been judged. The book says there's going to be a worldwide nuclear war, and it looks like Israel has decided that we're worth sacrificing, and of course our allies in the Ukraine are eager to sacrifice as well. They are hoping that we can stand the Soviet Union down, Russia down, by holding this threat of nuclear Armageddon over their heads. The problem is, at some point, Russia says, screw it. We can't trust them. They're going to do a first strike launch. That's what their strategy here is. Everything is lined up so they can hit us first. In which case, they will launch. Maybe first. And I can't blame them. My only hope is that they hit the bad guys. They take out everybody that's in D.C. They take out the bad guys that are on Wall Street, the crooked people everywhere, the bad people in the cities. That's my only hope at this particular point. And that the people in Russia survive intact so that humanity will continue. You see, I already know those are our brothers and sisters over there. They are. And Russia interfered in international relations, saving America on several occasions. Civil War and Revolutionary War. And because Russia saved us from the international bankers during our Civil War, they went after the Tsar. Of course, they didn't get the Tsar who defended us and helped us. They got his son instead. And it's sad because the Russian Tsars, if they hadn't made the sacrifices they did, we wouldn't be here today. Sadly, we sent over the Bolshevik Revolution right from our own shores. It was planned right here, and those bankers sent them over. Planned it on Manhattan, sent over the troops from the Bronx. Yes, we owe the world a debt. We owe Russia quite a bit. And this idea that we're going to stumble forwards and Russia's going to back down will not end well. It will end with us being nuked. And it's not going to be just Russia. There's going to be 6 nations, according to Pastor Paul Burnham, who's been deceased for about 3 years. The 6 nations are mentioned in the Bible. Paul told me which nations they were, and I don't remember exactly, but we know that the dragon, China. We know that the bear, Russia. We also know that Iran, okay. And we also know there's going to be a few other nations. And I believe we're going to see, I think we're going to see Turkey and India in the mix. And probably Pakistan. We are going to have one hell of a fight on our hands. And after what we have done to the world during the last century, we have it coming. See, the Bilderbergers, when they made the announcement more than a decade ago, according to Alex Jones, that they were going to destroy America, the people cheered and said, let's give the Americans what they've got coming. You see, they've used us. They've used our might and projected it, and they've used us to commit genocides around the planet. Yeah, Americans need to wake up to the genocidal stink that we are. We are the enforcers for the beast system, the worldwide beast system. It's all in the Bible. Read the Bible. You don't even need to go to church. You can just get a good copy of the Bible, like one of mine, and just sit and read. And just read it. Read it for entertainment. Read it for the history. Read it for the quaint stories. Read it so you can understand the interactions of these really weird families that had some bizarre stuff going on. I mean, Adam and Eve's family was not that happy, nor was King David's family very happy. There were a lot of screwed up families in the Bible. Isaac's family was screwed up for sure. He produced the 2 warring factions. Esau, who became known as Edom, who married Canaanite wives, which was against what was told us in the Bible 5 times. Don't you intermarry with the people of the land. Why? Well, it didn't tell you directly, did it? Because they got satanic DNA in them. And of course, what was the purpose of that intermarriage anyway? It was because the Satan wanted to become God, wanted to challenge God and take the throne. And remember that the Jews say that the Jews will be their own Messiah. I think Netanyahu actually said that. I think they've been trying to tap Trump for that role. I pray to God we get the best president for us and that we can hold his feet to the fire to restore our republic. If he doesn't know how to do it, I don't mind calling the shots in. Just don't expect me to go into D.C. or anywhere near that stupid place. I don't want to be around those people. Man, I'd rather be out by myself or out with simple people, real people, rather than evil like we have in D.C. It's such a mess right now that getting nuked might be seen as a merciful moment. Isn't it horrible to say that? And Israel is on a suicidal path, and they're going to make sure to take us with them. And that fellow in the Ukraine, he's on a suicidal path too. He's already taken us with him. So it's just a matter of time before The Russian people finally demand that they launch everything at us. And they aren't going to be alone. The Chinese, oh, that's right, North Korea, India, Turkey, China, Russia, and then look at what is in the Bible. All of the nations gather in the Middle East and go against Israel. Now, first of all, that's not Israel, that's Edom, or Idumea. It's the descendants of Mount Edom, Mount Seir, descendants of Esau. They're not the descendants of Israel. Israel was his brother, his twin brother. And Israel today spread around the world. There are many great Israelite nations, and the United States of America has become a great Israelite nation. It is not the great Israelite nation. You also have Canada, Australia, Great Britain, South Africa. There are several others that really qualify or did qualify as great Israelite nations. Even Chile qualified for quite a while. And Europe, all of those nations, those are great Israelite nations. You see, we're all descended from the Israelites, the northern tribes of Israel, that supposedly were lost to history. No, they're not lost at all. The problem is we're about to get decimated. That's what I read in the Bible. It will be worldwide, intercontinental, ballistic missiles with multiply, independently targeted nuclear warheads. And while we in the United States have been partying and resting on our laurels and feeling smug, Russia's continued to develop their weaponry, and China has developed it as well, and North Korea, and Iran. Israel has bitten off more than they can possibly chew, much less swallow. And we should not give them carte blanche to murder other peoples. What does that make us in America? It makes us guilty of one of the things that Yahweh, the Lord, hates. And what is that? The shedding of innocent blood. May Yahweh bless.